So just a couple of weeks ago, we got the big announcement that NCAA Football was going to be making its return to video games. EA Sports announced this on their social media channels. Now, it is going to be called EA Sports College Football. They're not going to be using the NCAA name anymore, but just for the purpose of familiarity, we're going to call it NCAA Football because that's what everybody knows the series as. It's still going to be that same series, just with a name change. In fact, after NCAA 14, they were planning to change the name that year going into the 15 season, but the game got canceled because of lawsuits and other issues like that. Now today I'm going to clue you in on the latest news that we just found out about the upcoming NCAA football game, and this is actually some pretty big news. There's a few things to go over, so make sure you pay attention. And really quickly before we get into the video, I do want to let you know that today's video is sponsored by Squarespace. Squarespace is a all-in-one platform to build a beautiful online presence to run your business. I'll tell you more about them and how to use my special offer later in the video. So there's a really great article on stickskills.com that really dug deep into this and covered it for us, so I'm just going to read that article. Shout out to them. They dropped a lot of good information here. It says, unless you've been living under a rock for the last month, by now you know that EA Sports is bringing back one of its most beloved sports video game franchises of all time, NCAA Football. They were able to work around their previous restrictions by striking a multi-year licensing deal with the Collegiate Licensing Company, also known as CLC. EA Sports will no longer be able to use the NCAA name anymore, so they decided to rebrand the game going forward with a new name, EA Sports College Football. The release date is still unclear, but it is assumed to be either July of 2022 or July of 2023. It will be available on both the Xbox Series X/S and the PlayStation 5 consoles. Now, me personally, I feel like 2023 is going to be the year just because I think they just announced it, so coming out with it in 2022 does seem a little ambitious. It is definitely what I want. It's what I know all of you want. It would be nice to see it happen very quickly. And honestly, maybe it could happen in 2022 because we don't truly know if they've been working on this game for a year already. We don't know if this is brand new information or if they just decided to finally announce it. So either next year or the year after, we'll definitely be getting that return. But let's dig a little bit deeper into the more important information now. So here's an excerpt from the EA press release when they announced this a few weeks back. It said, through the CLC partnership, the franchise will include the rights to more than 100 institutions featuring the logos, stadiums, uniforms, game day traditions, and more that fans have come to know and love. While this college game will not include student-athlete names, image, and likeness, EA Sports is continuing to watch those developments closely. So that's kind of the first bit of news right there, is that they're not going to be having name, image, and likeness, but that's really not the biggest deal because people are going to edit rosters. I mean, the likeness on the old NCAA games wasn't even that accurate to begin with. It's not like they had face scanning and stuff like that. So the more important thing is that we have the stadiums, the uniforms, the logos, the things that we can't really customize ourselves in game. It says here, we know that the game won't include name, likeness, or images of current student athletes, but in the grand scheme of things, that is only a mild inconvenience for people playing the game. Most gamers will purchase the game for one of two reasons. Either they want to play a long dynasty mode, offline or online, with their favorite college teams quickly progressing past the first few years. After the first 4 seasons of a dynasty, there will be no difference whatsoever, which is true because after the first 4 years, now you're just using generic rosters anyway. Or the second reason is they would prefer to play something like Ultimate Team with historic players who are either in the NFL or retired. Think of Tim Tebow and Percy Harvin for the Florida Gators. And you can bet there's gonna be some type of an Ultimate Team mode because even NCAA 14 had an Ultimate Team mode with past players like Reggie Bush for USC or Odell Beckham with, LSU. That's what it's going to be. It's not going to be using the current players. It's going to be using the past college legends. And I don't think too many people will have that much of a problem with it because as long as your dynasty mode and your road to glory are what they were when we last had the game, no one's going to care because they'll just be spending their time there, and the people that want to spend money can be an Ultimate Team. I think the only reason Madden Ultimate Team gets such a lot of hate is because the rest of the game isn't up to par and there's not a lot of other things to do in the game, so you feel forced to have to play this as the only mode that really gets a lot of updates and things like that. Now, here is the most important information that we need to cover today. This is something that could potentially make or break the game. Today's video is sponsored by Squarespace. Like I said in the beginning of the video, from websites to online stores to marketing tools and analytics, Squarespace is an all-in-one platform to build a beautiful online presence and run your business. Now, the thing I love most about Squarespace is honestly just how easy it is to use. Let me tell you, creating your own website can definitely be scary, but Squarespace takes that fear away with a slew of great, easy-to-use features. They have custom templates you can customize to fit your needs. Their traffic overview gives you access to all the analytics you need to help grow your website, and they make it super easy to embed videos as well, which is what I did on my website where I created a portfolio for my YouTube channel. Head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/EricRayweather to save 10% off of your first purchase of a website or domain. Continuing on in the article here, it says the much more important ingredient is to use the team's logos, uniforms, and stadiums, and for the most part, those will be in the game. We did the legwork to track down every college that is or isn't in the game as of now. These things can likely and will change before the official release date, but here is where it stands. So there's 130 teams in the FBS, only 118 of them are part of the CLC, which is who EA Sports has the agreement with to license the team's images, logos, stadiums, and all that. There's a long list of teams that I can scroll through here so you can see. It's most of the teams you know, most of the important teams, and even the ones that aren't as important. However, then we get to the 12 teams that are currently not a part of the CLC, and there's some very important ones here. So as you can see, you've got the Air Force, Arizona State, Army, that's a big one. Clemson, that's a huge one. They've been one of the biggest and most important teams in college football for the past 5 to 7 years, maybe even longer than that. You got Georgia State, who's not a part of the CLC. Kentucky, the Navy is another big one. New Mexico, Notre Dame is a big one. Pittsburgh, Troy, and even USC. They do go on to mention something that is important that says it's worth noting that Clemson and USC are not covered by the CLC, but they have an existing relationship with EA Sports through Madden 21's Face of the Franchise mode. Madden 21 features those colleges' names, logos, and uniforms in the Face of the Franchise mode, so those shouldn't be a problem getting them to sign an agreement for the college football game, because if they're already working and licensing their images and their uniforms and stadiums and all that stuff to EA Sports for Madden, they should also have no problem, doing that for a college game. So those teams are likely going to be in. And also, there's these other 10 teams here that they could work the agreement out with. What's good here is that it's not like half of the teams, because if you had to work out individual agreements with like 70 teams, that makes it a lot more difficult. If it's only 12, that's a lot more feasible. Now, it is important to note that this could change by the time the game comes out, but Notre Dame is actually a team that has already opted out. They officially opted out and said they don't want any part of being in the college football game, which is kind of a big deal. It's a very historic franchise, and there's a lot of Notre Dame fans out there that would want to play with Notre Dame in the game, so that is a big one. Now, hopefully, maybe they change their mind by the time the game comes out. A lot of things can change in a year or two, but as of now, Notre Dame says they're not going to do it, so that's actually a pretty big one. And it's also important to notice that even conferences are a part of this as well. 7 of the 10 conferences are currently covered by the CLC agreement, but you have the Mountain West Conference, who is not represented by the CLC. They're represented by JMI Sports. The same for the Mid-American Conference. The Big Ten is also a conference that is a little bit unclear. They're the only Power 5 conference that is not a definite to be in the game, and that would be a big blow because the Big Ten is one of the most important conferences in college football. So they would need to work out a different agreement with EA Sports to be in there, because currently they're not covered. Now, most of the important bowl games and things like that are covered by the CLC, which would be the College Football Playoff, the Heisman Trophy, the Fiesta Bowl, Rose Bowl, Orange Bowl, Sugar Bowl, Peach Bowl, and a lot of the other smaller bowls. Now, again, what's important to note here is that a lot can change in a year or two by the time the game comes out, but as of now, there are teams that won't be in the game. There's conferences that may not be in the game if they can't work out an agreement, and there's going to be some bowl games and things like that that likely will not be in the game if they can't work out an agreement. But I do think I speak for all of us that we say, we'll take what we can get when it comes to college football. If we can get 85 to 90% of, the teams, the conferences, the bowl games and all that stuff, I think we'll take that over having nothing, but hopefully they can work out as many of these deals as possible, because we'd obviously like to see 100% if we had the option. So that's all for today. Just wanted to get you guys clear and up to date with what's going on with the latest college football game that's set to come out in the next couple of years. Hope you enjoyed the video. As always, I will see you guys next time.